Hi there. My name is Michelle Perales, and I'm here with Caroline Cox, the director of Food for the Rest of Us, and Sue DuMond, director of Farm to Restaurant to Table. And we're just going to ask a couple of questions about the filming process and what it was like to put these films together for the film festival. We're open to questions from the audience if they have any for us. Um, but I guess I wanted to get started. Um, How did you choose locations, I guess, for the film for the Food for the Rest of Us, Caroline?
Just let everyone know I'm wearing a mask because I'm in a public space right now. But yeah, so our film, we got a grant in Canada called the Talent to Watch Fund for first-time feature filmmakers. And we just really, it was almost like we, well, luckily because of the pandemic too, it was 2019. We really quickly had to jump into production because it's such a seasonal film, especially where we're based in the high Arctic. So we had already sort of known some folks through this other project that we had done called Wild Kitchen. And we also met Eric, or not met him, sorry. We had been following him on Instagram, and his sort of food activism through farming was kind of the spark that inspired the film. So that was why, for sure, we wanted to work with Eric. And then we found the Mao Organic Farm just through doing some research, and they just seemed so well aligned with what the film was about. And we loved the like youthful energy, and of course Hawaii is beautiful too, so that was really exciting to travel to Hawaii. And we actually met Zuria Malpika, the kosher butcher, through Queer Nature, who had been connecting with us through Wild Kitchen as well. And then we're a northern based production company, so our producer Jerry Thrasher, who's also in the film, it's like her home community along the Arctic Ocean. So that was why we chose work in Tuktoyaktuk.
Awesome, thank you. I guess this is a question for Sue. How has the Lopez Island Food Program changed since you've filmed the documentary, or has it changed at all?
Yeah, it's really significantly changed. Originally, at the beginning of the film, they talk about how it helped identify, the needs in the community. There was like two food banks, one at a church and one at the resource center. And they were basically just, walk in anytime you want and get things you need. And and so when the pandemic hit, they started realizing that they needed to combine efforts, and they did food deliveries, etc. And now they've moved the location to the center of the island, and they're calling it Food Share. And there's Tuesday pickups, and um, uh, every recipient gets an email with like a menu, and they're able to choose what they want. And then usually at the end of the week, if they have excess produce or something, they'll do like a pop up where you can just stop by and shop. So.
Awesome, yeah, thank you. I guess this is a question for either one of you. Were there any significant challenges that came up during filming, whether it was due to COVID-19, like you had said, you were trying to film right before, or you guys squeezed it in 2019? Were there any other challenges that came up with regards to the location or anything along those lines?
Well, I know for us, I guess because it was my first feature, there was just like the learning curve of managing such a big project. But it was one of those funny things where, because it was a low budget film and it was so seasonally specific, it actually forced us just to like go for it, basically, I guess. And so we were just super organized when we came into each location of knowing what we wanted to film. I mean, it would have been a different process if we could have followed a story longer, but it ended up being like this essay style film. I mean, we shot a bit the summer of 2020 in the high Arctic. I just went up with my camera and shot like the director, because they had closed the borders in the north. So there was no COVID, luckily. So it was easy to.
Oh, we lost you. I think we lost your audio. I'm not sure if you can get back on. Sue, did you find, I guess in the meantime, particular challenges filming on
I
Lopez or
would say,
during COVID?
when I started, when the resource center approached me with the idea, I had actually been independently filming by myself. And when we talked about it, I kind of envisioned, something 5 minutes long. And then once I got into it, I realized the story was much bigger. It wasn't just the response, it was how they were, um, pivoting for the next phase, um, stuff like that. And also, I would say that, you know, um, several people were really emotional as far as how it was impacting their business. And I guess I shouldn't have been surprised by that, but it was really um, learning for me how much
Oh,
it was affecting,
ugh.
not just myself and my family members, etc., but the businesses on the island.
And so can you see any expansion of the program or cross-pollination amongst the islands now that you've featured and shown us what exactly is going on in Lopez?
Yeah, there's also the food hub that is working, side by side with the food share, and that encompasses all the islands, and you're able to make an order on, I guess I think it is Sunday night, and then it it and then I'm not quite sure how they gather it up and distribute it, but it arrives on Lopez. Lopez pickup date is on Tuesdays as well. So someone could potentially order from other farmers and food producers on the other islands, um, and they could participate in that separately if they don't partake of the food share, or they could participate in it together. The food hub did, when they initiated that, did send out some gift cards to people. Um, and so people have been able to utilize that, and then it's open to the general public, you know, as well. So
Awesome. And Caroline's back.
Hi, sorry about that.
Excellent. Yeah, sorry to interrupt you. I guess we had asked what sort of challenges came up during filming.
Sure, yeah, I'm not sure how far along I got, but no, I basically was just saying because it was lower budget and because it was so seasonal, we were kind of like it kind of forced our hand a little bit. And so we just went into each location very prepared because we had a short amount of time to film. And honestly, like a lot went quite well. And besides like just general stress of traveling with a crew and long days and all that, but we did shoot some of the northern footage the summer of 2020. So everything we shot pre-pandemic except for some of the northern footage. But because I was up there and all the borders had been closed in northern Canada, there was no COVID, so that was great. But I couldn't bring a crew up, so I just ended up. But I am a camera operator, so I shot some of that footage on my own. But overall, I think we were really lucky to have I mean, it came out a little later than we wanted because of post-production slowdowns and whatnot, but generally it was pretty good experience.
Awesome. Yeah. I had another question about, I guess, filming in remote locations. Since we're on an island, I was wondering if you found any similarities or differences amongst farming in rural and remote locations and those challenges in particular.
Yeah. It's interesting. Like, as far as farming itself, I always feel like I'm just sort of like the conduit for the story, and I'm not like the subject matter expert. So I feel like the folks in the film would be able to speak a lot better to that. But I know in Hawaii, for example, like the water's all diverted away from the community, and then you have to water your fields with municipal lines. So it's like the only way to actually even irrigate your fields is through, you need like municipal water. And that's kind of going back to like land occupation more so than being remote. But I know in the high Arctic, for example, the food costs are very high, and that's why it's so important to subsidize the diet of the local people. And with climate change and the land changing so quickly, traditionally, a lot of folks in the north, and the Inuit in particular, would harvest their wild food as their main source of like their diet. But now it's getting a lot more complicated. Like the ice is thinning a lot faster, and the caribou herds are coming in at different times. And so that is why they're embracing this idea of farming and building greenhouses, even though it seems like crazy to grow food on the Arctic Ocean. It's just a way that they can sort of like balance out this need for local sustainable food. Because it's like, I hate to just throw out a number, but I know it's like, $10 for 2 liters of milk. Like it's just like unimaginably high food costs compared to the rest of North America. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it seemed like there was a really strong theme of adaptation, not only in your film, but in both of the films, actually. And I was wondering, Sue, if there was anything that you found really surprising that you didn't already know about the community on Lopez that came up while you were filming, or anything new that you learned about a community that you're already familiar with?
Well, I feel like the community in general is really supportive of agriculture and in the restaurants and having local foods in the restaurants. I was really amazed, how much money was raised for this project. I mean, honestly, and my understanding is a lot of the people who did support it in that way are part-timers or and so it was a real way to see the community as a whole, people who are living and making their living here, and people who are, homeowners but may not live here full time, but they really are supporting the local businesses and farmers and food producers.
That's awesome. And Caroline, I was wondering if after the filming and after putting all of this together, you were able to walk away with a sense of what you would like to see implemented in more food systems across America?
Yeah, it's something I've thought a lot about, because one thing we definitely really got deeply immersed in is this idea of like local solutions for local problems. And so it's hard to say one sweeping solution, except to just within your own community have folks like look at their surrounding and be like, where are we accessing our food from, but also who has access to the land, and sort of what systematic or systemic things need to be changing, and then what farms can we be supporting. I mean, I think a lot of folks know about sort of the industrial food complex and how we need to try to be eating local because it's more sustainable. So for sure there's that layer in our film, but then that extra layer of also who has access to growing their own food and how can we make that more equitable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. What was most rewarding about putting these films together for both of you? I'll let you take turns. I guess, Sue, if you want to start. Oh, looks like we. Okay.
I don't know. It was just a really good project to be a part of, and I feel like I got to know the people that I filmed and interviewed on a deeper level, and really see the depth and breadth of what they're doing, and also the resource center, their response, and again, like the breadth of who they were serving, and it was just a really feel good project for sure. So.
Mm-hmm. And Caroline?
Yeah, really similar sentiments. I met some really amazing people, and just got welcomed into their community quite intimately and learned a lot about sort of regional food production and like regional challenges that I definitely wouldn't have known about if I had not done this project and been able to like so deeply immerse myself in those communities. And I'm just, there was like a sort of spiritual side to the film that I didn't know was going to come out so strongly when I first started working on this project. And so I like that became part of the film, the idea of like the healing power of nature and putting your hands in the soil, and how through all this trauma that some of these communities go through, like that can actually be an avenue to healing. So yeah, I felt really great about that too.
Awesome. Yeah, I really appreciated the emphasis on Indigenous practices and Indigenous cultures and how they're impacted by our current food systems.
Yeah, and well, I'll just add to, like, my producer and business partner is Inuit from the High Arctic, and then our co-producer Jerry Thrasher is also Inuit, and we're an Indigenous owned and operated production company too. So that was why it was a big part of the message or the story in the film.
That's amazing. I was wondering, I guess, if you had any suggestion for ways that viewers could also support either these projects that you worked with or the communities that you worked with, if there's an avenue for that.
Yeah, I mean, we worked with like some very different groups, and so I think like each one has its own, thing that they're doing. Like My Organic Farm in Hawaii is still fully doing this like internship program for local youth. Waianae is a lower income Indigenous community on the island of Oahu. So if anyone ever wants to like do research or support that initiative, like they're doing really cool stuff there. And then I know in the High Arctic, there's this organization called Green Igloo that is building geodesic domes in Arctic communities to help with food, like for them to be able to do local food production. But yeah, again, it's kind of that thing of just each region has their own solutions and their own initiatives. We are, with our film, Collective Eye out of Portland has come on to do our educational distribution and also an impact campaign. So anyway, if anyone's interested, I know that they are organizing community screenings across the United States right now from the impact side of things. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. And Sue, I guess if there's anybody who's watching in the local community, I was wondering if you had any suggestions for people to get involved and to bolster the program that you featured, or any other program that you can think of for that matter.
Yeah, definitely supporting the Family Resource Center. There's a need for volunteers there in the food distribution process. And I don't know as much about the food share, if that's a volunteer as far as how they distribute it. And just, supporting agriculture in general on the island, the farmers markets at the Grange. We've had, I'm also involved with the Grange on the island. We've had a winter market and it's been indoors. We've had to shut that down due to COVID. But right now, on one of the farms featured in the film, Sunnyfield Farm, they have a Saturday market at their farm until it gets too muddy to be there. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Right.
And Caroline, I was curious if after filming this movie, you felt inspired or have been inspired to possibly grow your own food more or be more.
Well, to be honest, like I grew up on a farm and we had a huge garden. And then in the Arctic, before I got into film, I was a musician and I was living out in a cabin, like very remote off-grid cabin, but with a small homesteading community. And so not only like growing our own food, but also harvesting a lot of wild food to supplement our diet. And that was kind of what got me into my first film project, which was called Wild Kitchen. At this point, I would love to garden, but I actually travel too much with my job and some of the films we're doing. So I can't keep my little plant babies alive because I'm not there to water them. But I would love to, again. And I think it, hopefully that is part of what the film does, is inspire folks to start, even if it's just like on their balcony in an urban center, or if they have any access to land to start growing your own food. It's really, it's delicious, it's healthy, and I do think that it's like a healing thing to be connected to your food like that.
Awesome. Yeah, I agree. And I guess it sounds like you're working on other films and other projects as well. Is there anything that you can talk about that we can look forward to, or is it all pretty under wraps?
Sure. This summer we were filming up in the high Arctic again. This time my business partner's directing and I was producing and camera operating, and it's a film, well, it's called Digging Deep, but it might change. It's the working title, but it's about an indigenous, he owned a tourism company, but then with COVID, everything shut down. So he had to pivot, and he's building an off-grid community where they are growing their own food. But it's also really looking at housing security in the north. Again, like just with the cost of food, the cost of rent is very high, and it's usually the indigenous folks who get left behind, who don't have the high paying government jobs. And so there's like a lot of inferior housing in the high Arctic. So he's trying to build this community like off grid, embracing indigenous traditional methods of building and then modern technology like solar and some like architecture and building designs. So yeah, that's what we've been working on this summer, and it'll air on the CBC next summer.
Awesome. That's really exciting. That's exciting to hear about.
Yeah.
I was wondering if, Sue, after putting this short film together, if you've been inspired to create other short films around the community or about featuring anything.
Definitely. I happen to have a lot of archives of stuff that I haven't done anything with, and bringing those to life. And a lot of them are, island stories, very people focused. As there's a diverse group of people here on the island. I feel, and like I have a 93-year-old artist I filmed several years ago, and it was just something for her family. But I never edited it down. But it's a fascinating story of being through her evolution of an artist and then becoming a jeweler. Being accused of being a communist, and I'd like to really edit that down into something cohesive. So stuff like that. So
that's exciting. I can see us.
Cool.
That's really cool. Yeah. And I guess I'm not sure, Caroline, have you visited the islands before? Have you?
No, I have not.
Do you plan on coming to visit at some point? Possibly?
Yeah, I would love to. I mean, I guess so. It's probably a little similar to British Columbia, but yeah, no, I have not been to that region. I don't know how soon I'll be traveling to the United States, but it sounds promising for things opening up a bit again. So yeah.
Gotcha.
Great.
Yeah, we would be happy to have you. Well, thank you both. I'm not sure if there's anything else that you wanted to add that you wanted viewers to hear about the filmmaking process and how that went for you. But thank you both for your time, and thanks for being here today. It was really a pleasure watching both of your films.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for having us.
Of course. Yeah. Have a great day.
All right.
You too.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.